Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Sitting across from me is Tyler Hamm.
Hi, guys.
What's up?
Not a lot.
So the quintessential first question is, what do you do?
Well, currently, I'm a student here at ACM, production and engineering. But also play guitar and write songs and play various places, kind of like restaurants, that kind of thing, for a little bit of cash. And then I wash dishes, which is very rewarding, I guess you could say.
It's how you got to get by somehow.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't have to deal with people, which is nice. I just
Yeah.
kind of get my own world and make sure the plates are clean.
Do you get to like pop in some earbuds whenever you're washing dishes? Or is it
Sometimes,
like a
yeah.
safety regulation.
Well, yeah. As long as nobody's like the boss isn't in the building, I can kind of get away with listening to some music. But sometimes it's nice. I don't know. Like everybody I work with is pretty cool, so I don't really mind like talking to people that are back in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do you play?
As far as music goes, I mean, like I said, I would say it's probably like indie singer-songwriter type stuff.
Yeah.
I'm probably a songwriter before I'm like a guitarist or anything like that. The guitar is kind of like the medium that helps me write.
Exactly.
And so, I went to OU prior to coming here and graduated with a bachelor's degree. I got majored in English literature and then a minor in philosophy. So I like to read and to write a lot. So the guitar kind of helps me do that in a way that's, I don't know, melodic and pleasant to the ear, and at the same time allows me to like sing it to people instead of just like reciting something that I might have written or whatever. So that's cool too.
I mean, this is already a nice train of thought to have, but what made you start with English lit and philosophy?
Honestly, it was kind of a trial by fire. I started off as pre-med, and just like my first semester just didn't really enjoy that as much as I probably should have, and didn't succeed as much as I probably should have.
I mean, did it like kick your ass?
Yeah, no, it definitely did. It really kicked my ass. I mean, like to the point where like they were calling me into like what's the word I'm looking for? Where you go, the advisors, and being like, you need to figure something out.
Yeah.
But and so I bounced around a little bit. I switched to history, and I did that for about a year. But within that was like I had to take a literature class and then like an intro to philosophy class.
Sure. And
both of those classes I just like fell in love with.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was just kind of like, man, like as easy as like those were for me to do, and as much as I enjoyed them, I was kind of like, this is probably the alley I should venture down.
Sure.
And so that was kind of what got me into that.
Yeah.
Into that boat.
I mean, so what can one do with a English literature degree?
Not much. Unless you want to write, and then which is fine. But like even to write for like say a magazine or for a newspaper,
Sure.
you could do that without taking any literature classes at all. You could have just done journalism, for that matter. But really, all it sets you up to do is to teach English literature. That's kind of what it does. Unless you want to write like a novel, which who knows? Maybe one day I'll do that. But as of right now, I just I've played music for a long time, and so that was kind of I took a year off after I graduated and was just kind of like spinning my wheels and was just trying to figure out where to go next and. My brother showed me this place and was like, man, if you like this, da 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 da, and one thing led to another, and so here I am. So my last year, which is pretty cool.
What brought you to ACM?
Honestly, like just Grayson was just basically one day was like, you want to come up here, like, and showed me the performance rooms, and we just kind of came up here and jammed and played some music, and he showed me around. And I was like, man, this place is pretty awesome. This place is really cool. And when I graduated high school in 2008, and I think ACM had only been around for like maybe a year.
Sure.
So I had, I had no idea that this place even existed up until my brother was like, which would have been 5 years later, not 5 years later, but wouldn't you graduate like 17, 18 years old? And so I'd been 23,
Sure.
So yeah, it's like 4 or 5 years after I was already like doing my college thing. He, found out about this place and kind of decided that this is what he wanted to do. And so
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was and that was the thing is like even at OU, like I would play guitar or whatever, but it was kind of a guilty pleasure. When I should
Sure.
be studying, I'd be like writing a song or doing something like that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird how it all like worked out, after
Yeah.
the fact. But yeah.
Um, and then why production?
Well, I did the performance thing first, and which is cool, and I dig it. But I mean, I like to write, which was one thing, and then I felt like I was just learning how, like, as a guitar player, just learning how to cover songs, really.
Yeah.
And so when I found out, which I mean, I know how to read tabs, and Ultimate
Sure.
Guitar is my one of a pretty good friend of mine. So
Me too.
yeah, exactly. So I was kind of like, if that's what I'm doing here, like I didn't feel like I was gonna get as much out of ACM as I could have had I gone a different route. And that was like, so the production engineering side was something that I really knew nothing about going into, and had never even really done anything, hadn't even really even touched a soundboard up until like that first like Studio One. You know what I mean? And so that was, which has been it's been an uphill battle, but it's been, I'm learning things, and I know that I'm learning things because it's hard. And so, and that's what makes it kind of, for me, rewarding. And so that's why production engineering.
Yeah.
That, and there'll be like, there's kind of like there's jobs out there for production and engineering students.
Many different kinds of jobs.
Exactly. There's a very diverse set of things that you can do, and so that makes me like, as long as I can do something and be around music or production even, or post production or anything like that, I'll feel comfortable and be doing something with some education that I received here.
And it's a job that is better than washing dishes.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Or, sitting in a cubicle and editing, I don't know, like some newspaper column or something like that. That wouldn't be as fun either as this is.
What is your, like, pie in the sky hopes of,
Man, that's a great, so I like writing music. So if I could write songs, like, that would be great, and I enjoy playing and singing and stuff like that. I don't know if other people enjoy it, but I like to do it. But, so if I could just write music or write, even like get some literature or some stories or whatever. Like, I like to write a lot, and I feel comfortable writing, and it's very rewarding for me personally to do that. So that would be really cool. Or, to work in a really cool studio like the one that we went and toured, Castle Row.
Oh my gosh.
Right, man? I mean, come on. Like, to work somewhere like that every day, I think, the idea is to wake up and be excited about your job.
Exactly.
And so, but that also goes a lot into your attitude that you bring to the table too, like, even, I can get up some mornings and be pretty pumped up to go wash dishes, you know what I mean? And so it's just like, that's, I've had worse jobs for sure. And so I think that's a lot of it too. And so having something that you can look forward to every day, for me, something personally that like kind of inspires me and makes me be creative and, that kind of thing. That's what I think. So wherever that lands me, you know, I'm pretty open and pretty, open, I guess, just to anything. So, yeah.
And then, like, what started you in music?
Oh, man. Well, I guess, I started taking piano lessons probably when I was like 7 or 8, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, it's weird because I remember like my younger siblings, how old they were. And so I think that sounds about right. If I was like 7 or 8, that means my sister would have been around 5 and Grayson would have been kind of like 3.
Sure.
Because he was a little tyke when we started taking like piano at the church. So we started doing that kind of just as kids. And then
all 3 of you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mom wanted us, to be musical. And then I did like middle school band. I played trombone.
Hey,
so
me
that,
too.
Yeah, so that got me there. And then, I think I started playing guitar kind of maybe 7th or 8th grade, maybe around then. Mm-hmm. And, I had just been at like church camp one summer, and there were these kids that were playing guitar and singing songs, and I was like, man, I want to be able to do that. They look so cool doing that. And that was kind of what got me started. And then, just kind of took lessons a little bit off and on, kind of in the beginning years, like kind of like 8th grade and I think freshman year, I took some guitar lessons from a kid who I went to high school with. It was really cool. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of what got me on my way. So
yeah, I feel like at least at ACM, sort of there's this like inner argument between contemporary and classical.
Sure.
And that, you know, a lot of the people here are just entirely contemporary. Like there's nothing in the classical side.
Yeah, that's true.
So like how does your experience for one going through the performance part and now in production, like how does that sort of relate to your classical versus contemporary experience?
You know, I mean, I feel like you can't have anything without like, I mean, classical music. I mean, let me just like, when you say classical, you mean like Beethoven, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, or something like that. I mean, I've always kind of liked that. There was some sort of story tape. I don't even know, like a cassette tape that my mom would let it like make us listen to when we were young. But it was Mozart. I can't remember. It was the Magical Flute. That's what it was called. It was I think it was Mozart, the Magical Flute.
Magic
And
Flute.
so yeah, I would listen. Literally, we would listen to that like almost every night. And I mean, and so that I think I got a taste for how music can kind of tell a story in its own right, even if there aren't any words. Like the changes and the movements within a piece can kind of convey feelings and emotions.
Sure.
And so that I think I probably picked up at a young age without even really realizing it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I guess like, and then with like I guess contemporary. I mean, I like classical music, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I don't listen to it all the time, but if it comes on and it's something that I like, I mean, I like Beethoven. I like Furlise.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I like it and I know it when it comes on. And one of his symphonies, I think, maybe the eighth. I can't. It's the one he wrote while he was going deaf. I mean,
yeah,
it's fantastic, you know. And so I think that's, you know. So I don't think we would ever have gotten to where we are today had we not had classical music to type of kind of look back on and to understand. And of course, back then they didn't have recording devices or microphones.
Sure.
You know? And if you did hear any sort of like words or anything like that, it was opera, which like, you know, still blows my mind that people can do that. But, you know, so I think it's definitely, it's an evolution, I think. And, you know, probably an evolution of, you know, of consciousness and like of understanding too within human beings as well, kind of as we've progressed and grown or, you know, along the way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you can read music.
No, not really. I mean, I could at one point in time. I mean, playing trombone, yeah, I was able to read, you know, I think bass clef, I'm pretty sure is what it was. And so, I mean, maybe if you gave me some time, I mean, I could probably pick it back up pretty quick, but now, you know, I mean, and that was kind of the thing. I took lessons, like for guitar, but even then, like, you know, it wasn't like sheet music lessons.
Sure.
And even then, like, if I was still in band, I think when I started taking that, so everything for guitar would have been, I think, treble clef. If I don't know if that's,
well, guitar goes down into bass clef, but
it's the grand. Is it the grand scale?
It should be, but.
Right.
They don't.
So we didn't do that, but he showed me kind of like tablature and, you
Yeah.
know, and that kind of thing. And then basic chords and stuff like that. So that kind of made it easier. But I think, you know, being able to write music would be, you know, a skill set that is pretty valuable now.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, you have like Logic or I know on Logic for sure that you can transpose pretty much anything that you've recorded into like sheet music for yourself, like within the program. So.
You can also do it in
Pro Tools too. See, so I mean, like that's kind of, I mean, I don't know if it's cheating, but it's sure as hell not writing it by hand.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think that everyone sort of needs a bit of that classical side, or is it? Because I feel like to an extent it's kind of an argument between like heart and mind.
Yeah. I mean. Here's my thing. It's like I don't think it would hurt anybody to have some classical training. I mean, especially if you're just like technique oriented. Like I know if I would have had more classical training with guitar, I'd be a better guitar player now for sure.
Sure.
And I think that probably goes for any instrument. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like sure you can wail away power chords whatever all day long, but pretty much anybody like who's practiced a little bit can kind of get that down. But you know, to play something a little bit more intricate or delicate on a guitar, there's a lot more technique that goes into that as far as hand positioning and where you're playing the notes with your fingers and everything, you know. So
I forget who it was that said it, but like this one, it's like a weird story, but this one guy, his dad was friends with like this famous like rock guitarist or something, and he like goes and meets the guitarist. The kid does, and he goes like, "Oh, I want to learn to play guitar like you." And the guitarist goes like, "Learn to play flamenco. If you learn to play flamenco, you can play anything."
Yeah, I think.
And so he learned to play flamenco, and like that's probably like.
Yeah, well, that's just crazy, man. Yeah, it's like those guys that was like gypsy jazz and that kind of stuff, man. It's like you watch those guys play. I mean, those kids start learning like at 8 years old how to do that stuff, you know, and it's phenomenal. I mean, like it's awesome. So like Django Reinhardt, like that guy did more with like 3 fingers than most guitar players can do with like all of theirs. So but anyway,
So I mean, since you do lean more on the like, hey, rock music or whatever side, like funny question, who was your favorite band 10 years ago?
Man, 10 years ago would have been what, 2006. Man, I was probably listening to rap music at that point in time, to be honest with you. Like, and maybe that's like kind of why like the lyrics and the writing kind of matter to me. And that was one thing, you know. With rap, it's like pretty much all lyrically oriented.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I kind of, I guess, was attracted to or gravitated towards at a younger age. And just, you know, everything else like that goes along with being, you know, 16 or 17 or however old. You know what I mean? Just like that kind of notion. But if I had to pick a rock band, you know, I got into Green Day. But I mean, and I want to say it wasn't even necessarily because of the rock and roll as much as it was because of like the kind of the stuff that they were saying. I remember, what was it? American Idiot was the album, I think, that came out. And I think the only album of Green Day that I ever bought. So, I mean, you can hate them if you want, but that's true. And, you know, and really liked all of those songs, you know, and the more I listened to them, the more I really liked them. But like I said, I mean, you know, like they were talking about stuff. You know, it wasn't like they were just like singing and I mean, they did some of that, but like, the political edge, like the political side of it, was kind of what I think I liked about it the most. Mm-hmm. And then I liked. I mean, and then I grew up listening to like stuff like, you know, Pink Floyd or the Eagles or Led Zeppelin, that kind of stuff. You know, Bad Company, those kinds of bands too. So I was very weird with my music. It was like it was either like classic rock or like hardcore like gangster rap, and then Green Day. And so it was just kind of like I was kind of all over the board as far as. I guess for me, it wasn't like so much like one favorite band as much as it was like a favorite song or like this, like, you know, like the American Idiot album, like they're like what they're talking about. And, and that's what I think I was attracted to more than maybe the music side of it. Yeah.
And I mean, that also kind of makes sense as to, I mean, why you went on to do English Lit, because you care about the content.
And I mean I mean, I took AP Literature too, and now that we're talking, now that I'm thinking back about it, you know, even in high school, I mean, that was, you know, AP Literature was one of my favorite classes for that very same reason. You know, we got to read a bunch of cool stuff and Edgar Allan Poe and read some Homer. It was, you know, and that was really got my mind going, you know, which I liked. So
I don't know why I like think of these weird BuzzFeed questions or whatever, but it's like, what was your favorite book that you had to read in high school?
Oh man, I really liked which one? Hang on, I think it was. Is it the Odyssey? I really liked the Odyssey. I think that's one where Odysseus has to come back to Ithaca. The Iliad is when they take Troy, and the Odyssey is is the story of Odysseus.
On the journey.
He's stranded on the island with Calypso. That was my favorite. Mm-hmm. I liked that whole concept. That I read it in high school and then read it again in college. Yeah, and just both times. I mean, just learned more about the story and kind of like. I mean, that story's older than the Bible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and it's great. I mean, and it has a lot of really. I think a lot of. If you read it, there's a lot of morals and stuff that echo throughout time and throughout other works of literature, you know, ideas of heroes and then self-sacrifice and stuff like that.
And then kind of contrasting that with like, what do you like to read now?
Well, I like older stuff. I like I mean, one of my favorite books probably was To Kill a Mockingbird was a great one. I'm reading right now. I'm reading Jack Kerouac's On the Road. Also reading Catcher in the Rye. You know, I kind of spread myself out when I read because I can kind of get bored and stuff like that. But I guess like I like stories that kind of talk about the human condition.
Sure.
And talk about, you know, I guess coming of age tales is what you would call it. I know that's definitely like Kerouac's, or that, you know, On the Road could be. It's probably a coming of age tale. Same as To Kill a Mockingbird and Catcher in the Rye both. So, Catcher in the Rye though I just kind of picked up because I watched a John Lennon conspiracy theory thing, and so I was like, I'm gonna read that book and see what this guy was talking about. But so far I've got no answers.
There's a movie about the guy who killed John Lennon.
Yeah.
I think Mark Chapman is the guy's name.
I think that sounds right.
And Jared Leto played
Ooh.
Mark Chapman, and he like gained a whole bunch of weight.
Wow.
It's called Chapter 23, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, and now in the conspiracy theory, they interviewed Chapman, I think, and hopefully we're saying his name right. And he talks about anybody who like understands this part of the story will understand why I had to kill John Lennon, and I am this generation's Catcher in the Rye. And
well, that was also whenever he was still insane. He's actually like a born again Christian now.
Oh,
he's like,
how convenient!
Yeah. Like he's still in jail for life, but like he has a wife and stuff, and she visits and stuff. It's weird.
That's very weird. That's very strange. It's super strange.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to literature.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is it about the like coming of age thing that keeps your interest? Because coming of age only happens once to anyone ever, and
so that's true, and maybe it's because that was kind of like the time that high school kind of through college, just like I think there's like probably like a 10-15 year period of, well, at least for me, you know, this coming of age has been a little bit longer than, I mean, for some people, sure, you know, it probably happens a lot faster, but for me, you know, I find myself like I feel like I look back every year and I feel like I've like kind of grown and matured, like even, you know, just a year ago, you know, and so and that kind of has been continuing for me. And also I think there's a lot it probably has to do with just like the psychology behind that, like, you know, human psychology and like the way that like our minds tend to work and how different things can impact kind of your growth and development as an individual. You know what I mean? And so I like getting that kind of information and reading about a bunch of different people and like what kind of makes them tick. And so that might be partly why those books are so good or why I enjoy them so much.
Yeah. What drew you into philosophy?
Oh man, I mean, where do you start? Questions. I mean, I've always had questions. You know, I remember as a kid being in church and then wondering to myself, like, well, if God knows everything about everybody, then how does anybody ever go like to hell? And this was obviously like a very like a childish question, and just because I had a hard time understanding, like, I mean, and even still to this day, you know, that I don't think anybody's innately just evil or bad. I think that, you know, it comes back to psychology, and probably what's happened to you in your past kind of has a lot to do with the individual or the mentality that you have as an adult or a young adult or whatever. And so, you know, when I got into philosophy, you know, and so I guess when I was a kid and you think these things and you have all these people around you, so you kind of feel that isn't okay, that to ask questions like that and to test the boundaries and to test the lines in the sand, so to speak, is kind of like off limits. And so, I mean, my first, you know, like intro to philosophy class, like we just started like, you know, breaking down barriers, and that in a space where it was cool and it was okay, and you know, to question things objectively and to kind of take your emotions and set them aside and kind of use some logic and rationale, you know, to kind of to try to analyze a problem or a situation or, you know, a society or whatever, an individual. So,
do you consider yourself like an expert in a certain kind of philosophy?
Not at all. No. I got a minor. So I know a little bit about a bunch of different stuff. to be honest, and I took a mess. I mean, I took a bunch of different stuff while I was, at OU. I took I think it's astronomy, right? It's just the study like planets and stars, right?
Sure.
And then I took a physics class, which is really kind of cool. And so, just kind of getting my own, I guess, trying to find my own bearings on like what it is that I like think about the world and think about life and what it means to be living or what it means to be a human being. Even then, so.
Well, let's just jump straight into that one since
hooray.
You just set it up for me so perfectly.
Yeah. So what would the question be then? I guess because I could ramble and we don't need
that. First of all, do you believe in God?
Not in like the most like latent like God the Father, all like the church kind of thing. But I definitely think I think it's more of a consciousness, I would say, than it is an entity. I think more that I think life has an awareness to itself, like all of life.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my thing. I think that to me would be if that would be what I would call God. But I don't like the word God very much. So I just like life. I think life is pretty awesome. As far as I mean, yeah.
And I mean, you based on what I talked to Grayson on the podcast and
sure.
I'm talking to you. So like based on the fact that you did grow up Christian, like
right.
What sort of led you either away or sort of on this path towards having this respect for life?
Well, I mean, I guess, and that's a great question. Because I mean, we grew up. I grew up in the church. I mean, I was like an altar boy and all that stuff. So, and my parents were pretty religious and stuff like that. Honestly, it was kind of when I started getting to school, and like the university, like at OU.
Yeah.
I kind of got surrounded by some pretty smart cats who were kind of who were kind of out there when they would think. A really good engineering buddy of mine, and we would just kind of watch different conspiracy theories together, and then philosophy classes and questioning things and questioning what it means to be alive and what is evil or what is good and all these different types of things. That's kind of what we would talk about a lot, and then so that I think I slowly started to kind of pull away from this like orthodox idea of what it all had to be. And I thought that was, and that even in itself, that this notion that this is the way it is was just kind of ridiculous. And so that, and there's only supposed to be one book that has all the answers. I mean, and this book isn't even as old as like we talked about, like Homer's stories are older than the Bible, and there's been a lot of stuff that happened before and that we don't necessarily know. And so I think there's a lot of room that's open for like things that we that are open for interpretation, but we just don't simply know. And to sit there and to say that, well, yes, we do because of this, I just think that notion is kind of silly. And that kind of happened as I got older and started reading different things and reading about different spiritualities or ideologies and So, and not to say that it's wrong or anything like that. I mean, and for some people, it makes them happy and it's great. But for other people, it turns them into something that's kind of scary. Makes them, instead of, bringing forth like love, which, I think that's kind of like what everything is all about. It brings forth, hate and judgment and all this other stuff, which I think in today's world we can definitely do without.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be a long answer.
No, I want long answers.
Yes, okay.
But I mean, which is not to say that it's had like a negative impact on your life, like growing up as a Christian.
Sure. No, not at all. Well, I mean, I think for starters, I mean, like I said, my parents were religious, but even then, they're kind of like on the hippier side of that. Like, mom is definitely more peace and love than she is like you're going to hell if you don't believe what we believe. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard her say that about anybody.
Yeah.
Even if, and so that was, as I got older, I kind of recognized that. but I also realize that, belief is a very dangerous thing. Belief gives way to power, and power and it's something, that people will willingly let kill and die for. And so and to me, it's dangerous territory. And especially when you root belief in something like your soul or something like eternity or, infinity, like and then, if you're raised believing this idea like that, can really, like when somebody questions that, can really kind of scare you and like shake your foundation a little bit. It can be pretty traumatic, for people, which happens, but I mean, not to me.
I mean, so do you think it's sort of like a soft falling out that you sort of had, or like?
Sure. Or, I mean, I think it would be more kind of like an awakening. I think, like probably religion got me to this point where I was like, okay, like there are things that are good that can happen. I took the Bible as literature and I took the philosophy of religion, like both classes at OU. So, I mean, so there's really good stuff in there. There's great stuff in the Bible and in other books too. I mean, even in the Quran or, even, the Buddhist teachings and, Taoism, like they're all very much like constructed and like around this notion of like love and acceptance.
Exactly.
And then it's you enter the human element, and that's where things, and then you use like power and manipulation, and then you look at history, I mean, and that's where things kind of get off the rails, and now we're using ideologies or religions to kind of manipulate people into doing what one person or a group of people want them to do. And I didn't like that notion. And then for me personally, I had so many questions and so many, I guess, I don't want to say doubts, but doubts that like I just kind of had to like step away and just, and kind of do my own thing. And then I took some, I took some science classes. I took things like physics and astronomy, and I kind of started learning how like the universe worked, and started seeing, I guess, things on a macro scale that parallel things on a micro scale, or things that, things that work like that are huge that work also like almost in the same, like very similar ways, like on a quantum level. And and that's where I kind of started seeing this like this notion that there's an awareness to the universe. There's an order of things that happens and unfolds. It's order and chaos. And so that's kind of where I end up, is like it's kind of this Taoist belief, which is like yin and yang. There's light and there's dark, and you got to have both. Without one, you don't have the other. And then above that, whatever that is in Taoism, it's the Tao, which is equivalent to what God or something like that would be. But it's kind of just like this notion that everything's gonna this is just the way things work in the universe. I think evil and good are all relative to you and me. I don't necessarily believe that there's like just pure evil or anything like that. Nor do I think there's like some pure good. I think, like I said, there's a balance, and and that's very real to me. Like that's something that is very real, and to me doesn't need something like and I don't want to sound like hateful, but like a fairy tale that wrapped around it to make it sound cool. Like I think that, and that idea in that respect, like I think it's awesome, and that we're a part of that. Just as much as like, we exist within the universe exists within us kind of thing. I think it's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah. And so that's what I kind of get on board with.
Yeah.
So
I like that a lot.
Yeah. It's a Neil deGrasse Tyson quote.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned how like the human element sort of like throws stuff into chaos. So what is it about humans, at least that you think, that sort of tips that balance off?
I think honestly it's probably just like very, very old evolutionary traits that got us to here, like things like greed. If we go back like 1,000 or a long time ago, probably longer than that, but so like if you're like we're like caveman, it's gonna pay off for us to be greedy, because we can't grow food. So when we find this bush of berries that we can eat, it's going to pay off for us to eat all these, because it's going to sustain us. And so these kinds of notions, greed or pride and jealousy and, anger or hate, fear,
Mm-hmm.
got us here. They're those things that kept us alive through the hard times when we're all living in a cave, like around a campfire, trying to, stay warm and don't know where we're going to go.
Yeah.
But those kind of evolutionary traits are, now we live in a time where this is the easiest time ever to be alive. You know what I mean? Like, people have eating disorders now, which is, ridiculous. Like, thousands and thousands of years ago, like, you would have, like, your whole day consisted of trying to find food.
Sure.
Of, like, either hunting or gathering or fishing or doing something to find food to survive. And so, like I said, there were probably, like, down the evolutionary chain, there were certain traits that, and certain, I guess, characteristics that just were very beneficial to our survival. And so I think that those things now in modern context, they get misconstrued and they can be manipulated. And so there are certain things like that we can kind of let go of now. You know what I mean? That I think we have a harder time letting go of. And I think that people still kind of manipulate certain aspects of that type of, that side, that ancient, more primitive side of, or more animalistic side of what it means to be a human than what we are actually now.
I mean, to sort of go off of your yin and yang, is there sort of a necessary call to being a little bit more that's animalistic?
That's a great question. And I mean, sure. I mean, maybe to a certain degree. But then again, I mean, like, yin and yang, that whole notion is kind of like, in like what context? You know what I mean? Like, and is in a relative context or not? Like, like problems today versus like problems 1,000 years ago. I mean, problems today are like, well, like my cell phone might die, or my car's running out of gas, or something like that. And so I think yin and yang, that whole notion, at least in that kind of context, has probably changed a little bit. So I guess I have a hard time. Like, I think now we have the technology and the capabilities to do so much for the people of this planet, for everybody, and the things that hold us back now are things like, religious wars or something like along those lines, or, politics, and are things that really, I mean, they shouldn't hold us back anymore, at least in my personal opinion. And so, everybody gets one, which is great. But I mean, that's just, to me, like, we are capable of so much. And I don't think we've even started kind of scratching like our potential yet. Yeah. I mean, we're probably, I think that we're getting there. I mean, there's definitely people that, innovators of, the modern, like, 21st century, like guys like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. I mean, that changed the game and changed everything. But I think we still have a long way to go.
Where do you think that positive potential is taking us?
I mean, hopefully it takes us to a place where, I mean, everybody can get along, where you can believe whatever it is that you want to believe. Like, you can believe those things that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and do that and let go of the parts that, make you want to kill anybody that doesn't believe the same things that make you feel warm and fuzzy. Because, I think everybody tends to be different, for sure. We all go through different experiences through life and stuff like that, and come from different, cultures and stuff. So, I mean, I think, and to me, that would be the positive, is like this notion of acceptance. Probably. And, just kind of getting along with people and then doing things to help each other out. I think that for a long time, especially in this country, it's like, what do I get? What's in it for me? And we need to get back to kind of like this, what is in it for us and for we, and with technology now, we can broaden that umbrella of what we actually means. We, like, to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we was just like your community, or your town, or even like your, depending on what your side of the tracks versus that side of the tracks, and now with technology and even, and this is kind of like the benefits of like social media and stuff like that you can talk to a lot more people and interact with a lot more people on a much broader scale, which I think hopefully over time will help us.
Are you more willing to embrace these, like, big advancements in technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's very like I always say like right now it's like we're like a bunch of like little kids that just figured out how our private parts worked with like when it comes to like what we're using technology for. You know, I mean, we have unmanned flying aircrafts that can fly all over the world, and we drop bombs with them instead of dropping food or something like that. You know, yeah, I mean, we use things like, you know, Facebook or social media to slander and to say negative things instead of uplift.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like this getting to this point where we're like, okay, like let's, you know, kind of like I said, I guess realizing our potential and then kind of like maturing a little bit with the technology that we have and that and kind of finding some common goals and common grounds to move towards. So, you know, whether it's like ending, you know, world hunger or something like that with you know, by having just drones fly around and drop off food or, you know, or using, you know, social media to speak to people all the way across the globe so that, you know, we have like a group meeting where you can get everybody on the same page. Like,
exactly.
It's just kind of, but it's just going to take time because there's, you know, it's a generation to generational thing. And so it just, because there's people who grew up with an older way and that kind of stuff, you know, it's so ingrained in their mind that things have to be this way that it's, you know, it's going to take them kind of passing the torch, I think, before we can kind of start making bigger steps. And not to say that there aren't people out there trying to do that right now, because there definitely are. But I think as we see, as like I get older and kind of our generation kind of moves into the forefront of the population and of like that kind of adulthood, that you'll see more of that.
Yeah.
At least I hope. Right? You know, I hope. That's all we can do, I guess. just hope.
I sense a like positivity in that like, I mean, is world peace possible to you?
Not right now, no. I mean, I don't think that it is right now. I think there's too many. I mean, we've had too many wars, you know, that have been in too many conflicts. I don't mean just we as in like Americans, but just the globe. I mean, there's been too many conflicts, you know, I mean, and so there's always going to be somebody, like there's somebody's dad who got killed, who's their son or their children or daughter, they're angry still. And so it's going to take I think taking us like a while to like get these conflicts and these wars and stuff like that kind of, you know, calm down or like try to get those stopped. And then after that kind of for some sort of healing to kind of start.
Sure.
But I think as long as you kind of try to move in the right direction, that obviously you got to try, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just be like, well, I guess we'll just give up now, you know, and whatever. And I guess let's just blow them up. Like, I mean, obviously that's worked so well in the past, you know, that's why we're still doing it
exactly
today. And, you know, so yeah, I mean, but I think, you know, with younger generations for sure, you know, that's one thing that, you know, kids today are privy to that even I wasn't privy to is something like Facebook or YouTube or anything like, you know, the internet even, where you can watch something from all over the world. You know, when I was a kid, that didn't happen. Like, you watched the news and, you know, I remember, you know, the coolest thing I grew up watching was like National Geographic was like as cool. And even that was like very much like geared for certain stuff or Wild America. I don't even know if you remember any of that, but, you know, that was like, you know, the animals, one of the first animal shows where this guy's traveling around filming like exotic animals and stuff like, well, I guess they would have been American animals, but whatever, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, but I mean, we've come a long way since then. And so I think that's, you know, for kids, especially today, young kids who can, you know, access like the internet and YouTube and see what's going on and the stuff that's going on all over the world and, you know, realize like it's not okay. You know? And so, and I think that'll be the ones that, hopefully, you know, maybe not our generation, but the one after that, and hopefully for sure the one after that. We just kind of, I think our responsibility is to make sure that we just don't just self-destruct. We just got to keep it going long enough for these young kids to get up here and change everything. Yeah. Yeah. So,
how do we get from here to there?
You're asking me for all the answers. I don't have.
Well, I know, but I'm asking you for your opinion.
Communication and education. education is to me is absolutely crucial and critical, and it's things like it's things like philosophy, it's things like logic, it's being able to think about a situation and removing your self-interest and looking at it, what I would say would be objectively or from the outside, and then trying to make a decision on what's going to be best for everybody versus what's best for me. Mm-hmm. It's a notion of community and a notion of all of us, all for one, not, and one for all kind of thing that, it's like, yeah, like I guess community and moving away from this notion of me, and I, and, what's in it for me, or what do I get out of this deal, or, what am I going to get from this president or that president,
sure.
Or blah, blah, blah. To like, what can we do for a community? What can we do for one another? Which I think truly is very human, are very human emotions and very human feelings.
Yeah.
That's, tribes and stuff like that were the way things got started,
Yeah.
And so that kind of notion of family is very important. I think realizing that notion of family extends beyond just your immediate family, but that we're all kind of in this thing together. Maybe it'll take some sort of like global crisis, maybe it'll take something like, global warming or something like that to happen for us to kind of wake up and smell the coffee. But that's, I think, how how you got to do it, and just educating people and getting people like, to realize that there's a lot out there and there's a lot of possibilities and there's more than just one way to do things, and that's okay. There doesn't need to be one way to do things. In fact, like if we can, like the more we can diversify and get along, the better. And so I think that would be like, if that, hopefully that's just a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a lot more than just that. But if we can get everybody kind of in that mindset, that I think will help a lot with everything that's been going on.
And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to, but how do you use your music in order to promote these ideas?
I guess I just write about what I feel. I write about, what I think. And, and sometimes some of the stuff that I write, I don't put into music. I just write kind of for myself.
Sure.
But, a lot of the stuff that I guess I kind of like write songs about are kind of like a universal question. And I might frame it around something that I know, something that's familiar to me, that's easy for me to write about. But I think most of my stuff is kind of asking it's asking a bigger question.
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out, and a lot of times I don't have answers. It's just more like posing a question, which I think is what you have to be able to do first. You got to be able to, figure out, and ask these, ask questions to figure out, answers. You can't just without that, you got to have both of them. So, but that's probably the long story or the long answers. Yeah, I write about, I try to write about stuff that, I guess, not universal truths, but universal struggles or universal issues that we all kind of face maybe on a regular basis or throughout life or within love or within families or relationships or whatever. I think that's kind of how to answer your question, how I would use my music to talk about those kinds of subjects.
And I mean... And even if you don't, like, at least people getting to know you would at least get that from you.
Sure, maybe so, yeah. I don't, I'm like, this podcasting is kind of cool because it's like, I think about this stuff all the time. I just don't talk about it all the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the point.
Yeah, right, so, yeah.
And I mean... What would you like to see change in society, whether it be political or cultural or, let's start with cultural.
Sure. Patience and understanding. I think if you can be patient and you can try to understand, if we can all try to understand what one another is coming from, like you're only going to move like into a better place. You're only going to move into a better spot and a better like relationship, and so that to me, I think that's like probably key, and just understand. The understanding is that there's more than one way to do things, and that you can believe what you want to believe, and I can believe what I want to believe, but that doesn't mean we have to like dislike one another.
Yeah.
You know, those are just ideas which just are in our head. It's not anything that's real, like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't pick up an idea. I mean, you know, you can make something, sure, but, you know, an idea or a belief is just in your head. You know, I always talk about think like the idea that we're American, right? Well, a long time ago, if they would have, like, that's just an idea that we all agree with.
Sure.
You know, it's not anything that's like, you know, if we'd have been like the country of Bob or whatever, like, we'd all be like Bobonians, and that's what we would think, and that's, you know, and that would be the idea that we all just agree with.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what I mean, like, with ideas and belief, that there comes power after that, and that kind of taps into other stuff. But so I think, yeah, I mean, to just realize that ideas are just ideas.
Yeah.
And beliefs are great, and you can have your own beliefs, but I don't think that you should be able to hurt any other person based upon,
exactly,
you know, what you believe versus what they believe. I think that's ridiculous, barbaric, honestly.
How do you, I mean, not even necessarily change someone's mind, but like just get them on a better track?
Man, that, you know, I have no idea. I mean, and the only thing that I could say, I guess, is just education, you know, because I think, you know, that's what happens, and nobody likes to feel inferior, and that kind of gives way to, you know, nobody likes to look stupid or feel stupid, and that kind of gives way to like some of those primitive, like, characteristics that we talked about, like anger, or rage, like your fear. You know, and fear is very, like, it's very, you know, one of those important ones. You know, when you're afraid that you look dumb or that you don't know something, like, there's nothing wrong with not knowing.
Yeah.
But when you're not educated in that kind of way, where like whoever doesn't know is stupid and gets picked on, or, you know, that fear creeps in that I'm looking like an idiot. So the automatic reaction for that is to be angry or mad or aggressive, and so that's why education is so important. You know.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, and stuff like philosophy and logic, and, you know, not just teaching one religion, but teach the basics of all of it, and not in a way where it's this is what you worship, but this is the history of this. This is where these ideas come from. This is, you know, this is when the King James Bible got, you know, reordered, and when they took these books out and added this stuff, and where these books went, and like all this other stuff. There's so much history and stuff like that that just gets brushed under the rug, that for a lot of people would clear the air a little bit, you know what I mean? And kind of just make everybody like take a chill pill on, you know, what you believe, like. And so that's what I think. I mean, you know, that education, you know, and just helping people learn more about themselves and about the world and about our past, and that'll give way to where we can go in the future.
I guess one last question, which is, what advice do you have for people?
What advice? Don't be so rooted in what you think is right or wrong. Be open-minded, and you know, try to love one another, and try to love yourself. That would be, I guess, like the most important advice I could give. Because if you do that, then whoever you're going to come into contact with is going to take away more, something that's more enriching than what they had prior to meeting you. And as long as we can do that, then hopefully we can keep moving in a good direction or a better direction.
Cool.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
This is excellent. And so, of course, if you have things to plug, if people can find your music on the place.
I mean, most of my stuff's just on Facebook. If you add me as a friend, most of it's just like little videos I take with my iPhone. So criticism's always nice. But hopefully I'm going to be recording an EP here pretty soon. So
that's awesome.
I don't know much about that, but I mean, I'm sure it'll be like on hopefully like some Spotify or Bandcamp or SoundCloud or Cloud Camp or whatever that stuff is, I don't know, whatever the kids are doing.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, do you have any like stuff that you've worked on, even that it's not necessarily you, but you've just worked on it, or?
Not yet. I'm working on some stuff now with some different people. I don't know if I can really talk about it. If that's okay. So I probably won't.
No, you're good.
But there'll be some stuff that I'm kind of helping some people write and stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah, I can't say too much about it yet. I don't want to jinx myself or anything like that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
You have any like public places where you can follow you? Have a Twitter?
No, I have Facebook. I have Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, Instagram is
Snapchat. I don't know if that's like a thing that you can. I mean, maybe not Snapchat. You know, sometimes I put some pretty racy stuff on Snapchat.
I'm down for racy stuff, but
Okay.
I don't have a Snapchat.
Oh, well,
but for the listener that wants to follow you on Snapchat, where are you at on Snapchat?
I think it's just my name, Tyler Henry. I can check on my phone. Yeah, no, my Instagram is Tyler Henry 89, and then just like look me up on Facebook. It's just Tyler Hamm. So. And that would probably be. I can check my Snapchat stuff here real quick. And it shouldn't take too long. Or maybe it will.
And since we kind of mentioned your brother a few times, I do want to say that listen to Space for Lease.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, those guys are great, man. They're so good. And they're so young too. They got loads of potential, and they're definitely headed in the right direction for sure. I dig all their stuff. I've seen them play way too many times though. But yeah. So the Snapchat's just Tyler-Hamm. It's really yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Cool, and that's where we can find your stuff. Go to what's the website? Space4leasemusic.com for Grayson's music.
Yeah.
That's the number 4.
Yeah, space the number 4 lease, and then it'd be .com too.
Yeah.
And then, and then I'm on Facebook, just Tyler Hamm, and same on Instagram is just Tyler Henry 89.
Cool. And for me, I'm Santiago Ramones. You can find all the stuff that I do through my website, santiagoramones.com, including this podcast that you're listening to. I also make some music, which is on SoundCloud, but you will be able to find through my website. And yeah, I always thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I always end it with my 3 things, which is sort of my life philosophy, which is love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong. Thanks for listening.